the Cameron Adair podcast with me, Cameron Adair. This is the pilot episode, the proof of concept. I'm doing the intro today from a car. I'm at the San Francisco Yacht Harbor. Today on the show is Chris Brennan. Chris is a photographer. His work's been licensed by Getty Images. He's also narrated commentary on exhibitions for the Museum of Modern Art and has co-authored books on street art. As I discovered in this conversation, Chris is also the author of the cult favorite prank calling software Shit Talker from the 90s. He's also the owner of Mishka, San Francisco. Mishka is a streetwear brand which has been written up in Forbes, New York Magazine, and their store on 350 Broadway in Brooklyn has been open since 2003. Chris opened the San Francisco flagship on 25th and Mission in 2013, just a few blocks from where I lived for many years. I caught up with Chris in his photography studio in the Mission and with his cat whose hair had been shaved into a mohawk. We talked about photography, fashion, his history with Mishka, technology, and food. Here's Chris. This is a cool studio.
Thanks. This is where I kind of space I've sort of been building out for the last few years as my photo studio, and not really using it that much.
Do you do like portraiture and stuff here?
Yeah, I initially I started doing studio stuff after kind of having a bunch of hand surgery. And I wasn't able to do anything for a couple of years. So after that, I couldn't like hold a camera at all. So I got back to the point of like still wanting to shoot, but I had like, this giant thing in front of you, like is a tripod, is camera stand.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
That is to kind of like take the place of my hands and hold it really steady and be able to articulate and move really quick. So I can swing that around almost as fast as I would if I were holding the camera, but lock it down and shoot something. But I started to change the focus of what I was doing from shooting events and editorial and stuff like that to shooting like studio stuff. That's what this place is for. So it's kind of like where I learned to do that, practice it, and then...
Oh, yeah, I think you told me about that because that was like... You had like an accident, like a scooter thing, right? And that's what fucked your hand up?
Yeah, I wrecked a motorcycle in 2003 I've been skateboarding since I was like 10 or 11 years old. So I've been falling on my hands for years and years before that.
Yeah, I've broken it.
It's just, constantly falling on your hands, skateboarding. That was all throughout. I started that in like 88, 89. I got my first skateboard. So I've been falling on my hands and wrists for pretty much the entire 90s. And then 2003, I wrecked that bike, had surgery for that, got hit on my bike by a car.
That was in the city?
Yeah, it was like on 16th and Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing some damage to it. But after that, I had a bunch of hand problems. I still can't really use the computer for very long and stuff like that, which is what I used to do for hours and hours on end. And so this was kind of more of a like... going from shit. So I couldn't carry my gear anymore. I couldn't swing a camera around in a crowd and do all these things as easily as I used to. And I used to be like crowd surfing with a camera and taking shots of people, 6 beers in me or something. It wasn't like,
yeah,
I could go from that to not even be able to hold the camera up. I decided just like to go from shooting 600 shots an hour to shooting, 1 shot an hour.
Yeah.
Really, really nice shot.
So it slowed you down.
Yeah, try to really focus on the actual...
And so that kind of stuff, was it just like, how long were you living in the city like before? Because I know like when I first moved here, it was like it was around 2007. And that's like kind of the time when like party photography was at its peak and like blogging and stuff. And, I was kind of aware of that, and like
Cobra Snake Vice kind of stuff.
Right, yeah. And that stuff was always like,
To be honest, I've been shooting. I was shooting parties or at the same time all that was blowing up, and the bigger it got, the more annoying it got because people had like opinions about it, or I don't know. It was just and then there's just a million people doing it too that weren't
right.
They wanted to do that. They didn't want to do photography. They wanted to be a guy at a party with a fucking camera. So.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what it's. Yeah. That's
and then I started getting just like random like hate for just being there and doing what I do, and a lot of what I do is the exact opposite approach. Like I got good at getting candid stuff because I don't take a lot of shots. Actually, I take very few amount of shots. I shoot kind of like the way I shoot film cameras because that's the era that I come from. And it's that don't waste it. Like don't just blast off 1,000 frames and skip through them until you find the one. Be very particular about trying to get it. You can take a few frames, but don't just like spray and pray, as they call it. Like I would do a lot of stuff. Like I'd get, it's hard to get a shot off, in a big room with a couple hundred people, let's say, between 50 and a few hundred people, where no one's looking at the camera. That's pretty hard to do. Yeah. So I started to like figure out little tricks to do that kind of stuff, try to not let people see me have a camera at all. Try to just be in the crowd. And it was, the crazier, the better. So like the shots ended up like, I have just so much material from that I don't know what I'd ever do with, but some of it got published and they're the more interesting shots that I ever had published that were party photography, because the rest of it's just like corporate bullshit for some drink company or something or some club I don't care about. I'm not, so it's not the stuff I put in my portfolio or my tear sheets when I show people.
So how long were you, just doing freelance photography? You survived on that for solely? As a professional 1099er?
Yeah. It was, it's not easy to do, but I did a lot of other odd stuff too. It's like I said, I do design and DJ and stuff. So a lot of that kind of was, I would work for somebody and they might have me like do another thing. Like I did like event photography for the MoMA for a long time. So it's not just like small, crappy dive bar client stuff.
Right.
Like,
and
then I started to get, I get published doing editorial work. So, you go from shooting for 4 hours for like 50 or $100 when you start and you don't know what you're doing to like shooting, a handful of shots and getting $500 or $1,000 for a single shot, and then it ends up in a magazine, and then your name's on it, and then you get another call out of the blue just because somebody saw it in there. It's like there's a threshold to that stuff picking up. So when I was working just on that, and I had the time to just focus on doing that, that's all I would do. So it would just, it's. I think it's you have to feed into it too. It's like I lost all my clients after stopping doing it for so long that now I would take probably like 6 months to a year for me to just do that to get back to where I was. But, it happens in like waves. Like you have to keep that little buzz up and keep work getting published and stuff like that. So you're not just like that guy that keeps, tweeting the same link from the thing that like 6 months ago that he got published in or whatever. It's like right. I'd like my better experience than like blasting out my friends and followers of like this thing that I did was for somebody to accidentally stumble across the shot that I did in a magazine and read the byline because they thought it was a good shot and then notice it was me and be like impressed that it was me. Yeah. So that was always way more like flattering for somebody to catch one of those than to be like beating them down to like go buy my thing or go see my show or whatever. It's just like I started to like want to really get the merit of really the work, not just people knowing me or something. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. See, that's like I kind of see like photography as like a dark art. Like I think that stuff that I really enjoy, like if I see a movie or hear a song or like a recording, then I really like it, and I'm really into it, then I immediately want to know, like, how is that done? Can I do that? Yeah. And with photography, it's like, it just is, it's all over my head. Because, like, I'm not, like, I've never been that into, like, images. I know enough about it, but I can't do it. I think a lot of what people talk about when they like the ephemeral qualities of a good photograph, right, is and I'm guilty of this as well. I think everybody is naive about technique in art and a lot of things until they surpass the point that they're at themselves. But they're looking, what I'm trying to get at is like a lot of people, I think, underestimate photographers doing things on purpose. Like a good shot in a magazine that looks like a chance encounter on the street or whatever, and this chick turns around and she's got perfect swing of the hair and her makeup, and it's a lipstick ad or whatever. It's like it's
how much effort goes
so much effort went into making that moment look effortless,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And it's very, very technical, and it's very, very like picked apart. It's not like people think as just like accidental, as it were, and that the photographer doesn't want you to not really know that either. But it's like the more you can get at recreating subtleties that are really exist that you see, and it's also about being very observant. Like when you see a good moment in reality, and you can bottle that and internalize it, not just remember it, but like remember what made, like, somebody describes like, oh, they had this really good lighting. Mm-hmm. I'm not like, oh, they had this really good lighting. I'm like, they had, a warm rim light at like this degree with this quality of shadow and that kind of stuff, so that I can take that, bottle it, and use it in a shot later. And, I think a lot of people underestimate that photographers do that at all. I don't think people think outside of the more obvious stuff, people, they say like, I don't like flash photography. That's a big, I don't like the way it looks with the flash on.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show you shots that done properly that you'll have no idea the flash is on, because, it has nothing to do with really what they're saying. And if they understood what they were saying, they'd understand the complexity of what they're saying. It's a very broad subject to say something like that.
Yeah.
And when done properly, unless it's intended for you to see it, you'll never see it.
So who are some of your favorite like photographers? Is that because like I know when I get into stuff, it's always because I see it done in a way that's like, holy shit, like I need to do that. So like for creative stuff, at least that's how my mind works, So like if I was obsessed with Andrei Gursky or obsessed with whatever, like Robert Frank or whatever, that would be like, my jumping off point. I don't know if some people work that way. Some people don't. They just kind of just create stuff and don't really think about it from the other side. But I don't know. Where do you come from with that? Like, do you have an obsession with other photographers?
I honestly, I don't.
Yeah, you don't.
It's not that I'm not interested. I go to photography exhibitions all the time. I go to see older stuff, like, really old stuff in the MoMA, and I see really new stuff on a regular basis. And I look at photography magazines and journals and stuff like that. And I look at the web a lot. But for me, I get really into the science nerdy stuff of it. Like I read about physics a lot. I'm really into physics.
Yeah.
Physics is really photography. It's photons, it's light and it's interaction with different materials. It's
what kind of stuff do you read, or like are you into?
I like everything from just cosmology to like quantum physics. Okay. And I like all the crazy stuff that's going on at the Large Hadron Collider right now, because there's a lot of like new science coming up that's just interesting, but it's also a giant camera. There's like a camera spanning 3 or 4 countries over in Europe shooting this little beam of particles around at like 99.9% the speed of light. Mm-hmm. Like, how can you not be stoked on that as a photographer? Like, you know what I mean? It's like most photographers look at me like I'm fucking nuts when I say that. And it's like, oh, what does your camera do? They have no idea what their camera does.
So were you doing photography like when you were going, you went to what, University of South Florida? Is that right?
I never went to university.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh.
I was...
Don't you have a lot of like technical training?
Yeah, in high school I got interested in computers. So I graduated high school in 97, South Florida, and I got into computers like maybe 95, 96. just got totally obsessed with computers, and I got really good at them really quick.
And that was just all you. That was just you just being interested in
I just
shit.
stayed up all night using the internet, and I started to just get into some like computer hacking stuff. Yeah, I got a computer job right out of high school because I was good at computers. It had nothing to do with school. And a lot of my friends went to school to get computer science degrees. And ironically, most of them graduated right around the time that the dot-com crash thing happened. So I was really, I didn't make any money off of it where I was. I was just like totally getting taken advantage of because I didn't know anything beyond minimum wage for me at that age was just like awesome. The fact that I could do computer shit to get paid was awesome. So I didn't know.
So you met Greg, right? When you were out there before you came to San Francisco?
Yeah. We met in Orlando.
Who's one of the co-owners of Mishka?
Yeah, he's a co-founder, co-owner of Mishka, and kind of more of the face of the brand, I guess. He's the guy that's like out there running around that people see more. Mikhail's the other partner. He's the guy that the nickname Mishka comes after.
Right.
Mikhail he's born in Russia, raised in Brooklyn mostly.
Yeah.
And they met in New York after Orlando. So me and Greg knew each other in Orlando, lived together for a little while, had a house that was decorated a lot like a Mishka store. So
yeah,
all the stuff in the stores, before.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that too.
Yeah, it's we collected a lot of stuff. We both were really into like collecting records and toys, and we definitely weirder stuff that most people who collected that stuff weren't into. Like I had a lot of friends who collected comic book toys and shit, and they weren't really on our level necessarily with the type of, we like bootleg stuff and weird stuff and, beat up broken kaiju stuff, like old stuff. And,
yeah.
Some of the older crazy ones that you see that are in the stores and stuff are like, they can get up there in rarity and crazy prices and where they're from and all that. But we all. I mean, so he his collection always trumped mine, dude. He's got some ridiculous stuff. But he when he moved to New York, started Mishka. The natural move when they opened the store was that they decorated it with all his stuff because he had just like such a good collection. So. I loved that, and I was just always like a little jealous of it. Just like, man, this is so sick. And we always, it's like since probably like middle school, since I don't even before. Like, I remember talking to my friend, like, what do you want to do? Like, work in a skate shop or work in a record store, like own a record store, and you put only what you listen to, and it was like the dream to like have a shop where you decorated and like only had your cool stuff in it. And it's a pipe dream in a lot of ways because it's like the business reality of that doesn't always coalesce with your ideas, but they made it happen, and that was so rad, and it was exactly like our style too. So it was like, for years of me, I lived out here the whole time he moved. Basically, like we had a house together in Orlando up until like 2001, I think. And we both split shortly after that, both left Orlando. That's like right after the dot-com bomb. So like I was like, I'd lost a job at that point. I was just like, the lease of our house was coming to an end. I like had a relationship was coming to an end. I'm just like, I'm getting the fuck out of Florida finally. So he was on the same thing. He went to New York. I went to San Francisco, did my thing out here. And then we'd always kind of joked about like, as they started to get bigger, I'd be like, when they opened the LA store, that was really where I was like, oh, LA, why don't you open like an SF, man? Like,
it's like a little trickier, I think, in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a unique market for a lot of ways. But they open pop-ups a lot, so it'll be like they'll get the opportunity to open a pop-up like in a space for like a short period of time and then extend it if it does well. But, we talked about doing that out here, and I really wanted to do like a more permanent store. We had a pop-up store out here for a little minute, and we've done that in a lot of places just to get the presence in the brand and somewhere it wouldn't otherwise be. Give people who love the brand like a chance to come check out Fuller. New York, Brooklyn's the first one, 350 Broadway. That's like, that space has actually been there since like the beginning of Mishka almost. I think they used it as like the initial like space to ship out of and stuff really early on, and that grew out of the website, and they eventually got a warehouse and all that and just grew out of there. But that turned into 350 Broadway, the storefront. So it was always a storefront, but they had, they used it for other reasons in the first couple of years. But
so 25th Street is number 4.
Yeah.
So what about Mishka like takes up all your time?
I work there as like a retail employee, and then I'm running and managing the business like as a manager guy who does stuff in that respect. And then I'm a buyer, and I'm the owner, and all those things together, albeit as small as the place is, they come to at least a few full-time jobs. So I have a little help here and there with stuff, but a lot of it just has to be done on my own time, my own terms as it happens. A lot of back and forth emails and adjusting orders, and just I got it. And I also it happens quite a bit into the future. So, we make stuff quite a bit. Like it gets worked on in the fashion world, up to like, a year or two in advance for a lot of people. So you really have to, there's a couple parts to it, but mainly it's like one is like fashion forecasting, like what's the world going to be doing this in the future, like what's going to be cool next summer type of thing. And then the second is like, what are we going to make cool next summer? Like, do we have a say in it? So that's what I kind of like about the conversation of the fashion world that never, occurred to me on that level too much, was that depending on who you are, you can call the shots as much as you can follow them. So there's a lot of people whose whole business is reactionary, it's reacting to current trends and fads, and like they see that like a certain type of a t-shirt is popular, so you
don't want to be that person.
No, you don't, because you're always going to be just reacting, and it's the same thing as anything else. When you're only a reactionary, you don't have time to you don't have the foresight in advance to see where you're going. So obviously the better person is to be the one at the front sort of making it happen, and but that person also has to be confident enough that they're going to be taken seriously when the time comes that they say bucket hats are cool.
Yeah.
That was kind of like one of those examples where
that was like last year.
Yeah, and there's also like the New York bubble has a little bit to do with it too. So it's like they had me ordering bucket hats like, I don't know, like, 2 years ago or something. It was like I was like I ordered really low, long story short. Yeah. I ordered really low on them, and they were like, I think you should order a little higher on these bucket hats. And I was like, I don't know, man. I haven't seen anyone wearing a bucket hat out here. I was like, since Cypress Hill, like no one's wearing a bucket hat in California or some shit. And like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like I was like, I don't see kids really rocking them too hard, and they're like, but they will. And I'm like, okay,
true.
So and they were right, because what happened was we dropped those, and I'm not going to say like we were the responsible for bucket hats being cool again, but we were certainly right there waiting when it happened. And there was a few key moments where like I got to watch. We got bucket hats in stock. We put them on the shelves. A bunch of kids came in. They tried them on. They were making fun of them. They're like, I look like a fisherman, Gilligan's Island, like they're making jokes. And I was like, fuck, see, I was right. Like no one's feeling them, and damned if not every one of those kids came back like a month later.
Yeah.
I think maybe like Schoolboy Q dropped or something then. And like,
yeah, you start to see it.
Somebody else wore one on some, show that was like, and then there was like right after like a ton of kids were like super like giving it the go ahead on the bucket hats, and it was like we had all these wild bucket hats out, and like everybody else was just kind of reacting to it. They're like, oh shit, bucket hats are getting hot. Mm-hmm. Let's make a bucket hat. And we had like all these cool bucket hats ready to go. People come into the shop with a Mishka shirt that they got 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it still fits them, and it still looks good, and it's not all cracked and faded and fucked up, because it's like they made a good shirt to begin with, because like that's what we do. It's our product.
Yeah.
It's like if you mess up your only thing that you do, it's like, come on, man. So like we're a t-shirt brand. We started out as a t-shirt company, streetwear t-shirts and hats. If you can't do a t-shirt and a snapback, well, what are you doing?
I noticed that like kind of a lot of the brand was founded on I guess Mikhail being in an accident himself and like laid up in the hospital or something, I guess is the story, and then got the money from the accident to start the brand. And so something born out of like, you know, convalescence or just being like bummed out and wanting to sort of surround yourself with like cool stuff to like look at and like be around you. It seems like a theme. Maybe I'm over like conceptualizing it, but it seems like, you know, that's the bread and butter of what it's about.
I mean, that definitely was. I mean, there's a lot of stories like that I'm kind of thinking of, like friends who had an opportunity to do what they wanted to do and finally did it. Like, I think that's more about like, certainly that there is a little like bounce back from that. Like, oh, like I'm laid up, I'm going to go bounce back and do something positive with my time or something like that. I don't know too much about like the details of that, but I know it's like probably more pertinent part of that story is that it's more of like a story of like DIY punk sort of, you know, finding a way to do what you want to do regardless of whether the world tells you it's a bad idea or not. Is like they took every small opportunity and tried to magnify it. So Misha or Mishka is like a nickname for almost anybody in Russia named Mikhail, or starts with an M name, I believe. So you can,
okay.
It's also a term of endearment from what I understand. Almost,
right, yeah,
almost like Miho, you could kind of call any younger, a young man on the street, you know, Misha or Mishka or something as a sort of like, hey slugger, sport, or like, I don't know, my friend or something like that. It's a term of endearment, but it's also, it means the literal translation in Russian is bear or bear cub. The type of subject matter that we're working with is very like dear to the people who buy it, and it's very personal. It's the kind of stuff that people get upset when they say somebody sold out or whatever, you know. It kind of protects those. I feel like Mishka's protecting those things, not exploiting those things. And for as much as we deal with like exploitation themes and stuff like that, it's so like hyper self-aware at this point that it's like no matter what we do, people are going to check us on it, and other designers and other like all the people who've ever worked with Mishka who've been paying attention to it for over 10 years now, they're gonna let us know. Like if you even if they're wrong, they're gonna let us know. Yeah, they're gonna let us know how they feel about every little thing we do. You know?
Yeah, but if you look at like lasting power of artists, like you just have to listen to your gut. If people, you know, I feel like there's two sides to a coin. Like if you have whatever punk aesthetic and then you like get a major label, like this is a music metaphor, but like if you're like a punk band or whatever doing cool shit completely DIY, and then you like sign a major label deal and do a major label record and people talk shit about it, it's like, yeah, but like I'm the artist and you know, I'm doing what I need to do. And on the one hand, like you get all the praise like if you do it, you know, if you're like doing it yourself, but it's not like you're like, there's no such thing as selling out. Cause like if you sign a major label deal or do something that people think is selling out, like you're ultimately just getting screwed by the record label. They're calling shots for you. And it's like, it's not like you sold out. It's just a new set of problems. It's just like it's just different, you know?
I mean, most people who use that term, not that I haven't used it just in this conversation, but what people generally who are like pointing fingers when they say somebody sold out or whatever they're trying to say is they've never probably been in that position or been close to somebody who's in the position that they're in. So it's easy to say when you don't understand like a major record deal that you assume that the person's getting ridiculously rich when in fact, as you just said, like, you know, they're not. They just like open up. They're not.
Yeah, they're banging their head against the wall about like, you know, somewhat like having to run like about a record that's done that has to come out now because, you know, whoever at the record label says, no, we're pushing this back a year and you have to tour for 18 months until we even start doing, you know, publicity on this thing. And it's like, people think like, oh, you sold out and like blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's just one thing or another. And then ultimately there's a backlash from that. And that person wants to go back the other direction and start doing like more DIY stuff. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I've experienced that in a bunch of different ways, and I think it's generally comes down to the person that's saying it doesn't understand like where the person that they're criticizing the position that they're actually in. Doing something that you really care about well is like way harder because you care about it every step along the way. You don't want to do it. You know, you're like, you make sure it's perfect.
It's
right?
also impossible to tell like what the larger cultural implications are of something while you're doing it. So like, you know, you could put out like a great season or like do a great collaboration or like sign some kind of big distribution deal, and people could be criticizing it. It could have been the best thing you ever did a decade down the road, and there's no way to tell while it's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like markers along the road, you know, like a lot of ideas that are touted as new ideas or whatever. They're mostly ideas like two other good ideas put together and contextualized into something else. But, you know, cause it's like, I don't know. There's a lot to do with that whole subject. That could be a whole, like, I could talk about that itself for hours because I've had a lot of other like interesting experiences with stuff that wasn't necessarily like punk or like this. That's like people look at you different once you make money doing. Because there's a lot of people like on the internet just talk all the time. Everybody's got an opinion now, so
yeah, there's
more false information floating around than anything else, and kids think they have like. There's all these fake it till you make it guys like telling them like, oh yeah, we're out here doing the photo shoot, doing this, doing that, and it's like. If you were being paid to do this shit, you wouldn't even fucking be doing this shit right now. Like the catch-22 here.
That actually is.
And you spend more time bragging it about it on the internet than using the fucking thing and learning it.
Yeah, that was actually a legit problem in like the audio engineering world, where it would never fly in like, you know, the A-list studios in LA, but a problem with sessions where people would just be there so they could post it on their Instagram or whatever, and like paying for the session, but not getting any work done. And like in like at high, you know, at some of the studios where I work, and it's like actually became a problem where the engineers would talk about it and be like, yeah, like what the fuck, like why, like this sucks, you know, we're not getting anything done because these people just want to, you know, look the part on their whatever identity.
Yeah, because that's part of it. Created. I'm out here living in the studio. Like it's like people do that shit to like, why don't you go see a fucking cable car, bro? Like, why are you here? You came out, you like, I don't even know who legitimately is doing anything anymore. Because there's people who are always sending me stuff who like literally don't have a product. They don't have a record or any sort of like output that's, you know, it's not getting them paid or like getting them a lot of attention. Or I'm just like, what do you do? Like, but they have this whole, like, they want you to believe that they like, are like, that's what they do. They got rich off of this or they're getting money doing. And it's like, I don't know. I don't have the time for people to just confuse me. And like,
yeah,
I don't even know where I'm going with that, but like, there's just, I feel like a lot of all that shit is just like people just like lying on the internet, and then a bunch of other kids copying them lying, and not even knowing like what the reasoning for having that thing is there, you know, and then being like, oh yeah, photo shoot is where you have two ratchet fucking chicks that just, I'm like, you know, I'm sick of seeing just like this bogus like I don't know, it's like.
Well, you can invent a whole identity. I mean, especially in something like music where, you know, a lot of identities are just invented. It's just a character. Like, you know, I don't know, Rick Ross or whatever. Like these people, they just, you know, they throw fake money in their videos. What do you think?
I guess it's like they're being fake. They're being like, they're copying somebody who's not, I don't know, they're not doing them. And it's fucking obvious and it's boring and it's just trite and
yeah.
I don't know, man. It's, you know, like, I think a lot of people, like a lot of younger generation kids that are coming up right now and seeing all this, like, you know, these kids, they're like, they're freaking, I'm a CEO of my Twitter account. I'm a boss. I'm a fucking entrepreneur, hashtag fucking. It's like, what the fuck are you an entrepreneur of? What, you know, a CEO? Like, do you even know what that means? Like, literally, I own a company. And I would never call myself a fucking CEO. Like I would, and like not that it's like, oh, there's a guy down in the corporate office, like chief executive office, like down here working on this reports or like what is this guy who is on a account with 40 followers telling me he's a CEO of like a a social media account, like,
yeah.
I just can't. I don't even like. I don't know. But it's like those dudes with like all this shit piled on top. Like, you know, it's just this smoke and mirrors of like them being some kind of fucking, like, I'm supposed to get all like, ooh, who's this mysterious 19-year-old kid that's like telling me he's like such a big deal that like,
yeah,
like what, you know what people who are a big deal don't do? They don't go around and tell people they are. Like, that doesn't happen. Jay-Z doesn't do that kind of shit when he's like rolling around New York. He doesn't go into stores and force the person to like open up his Facebook fucking page, you know?
Yeah, I think that's why, yeah, I definitely look for lasting power in stuff that I, you know, can get into or like identify with. And like, I look at least in the music side of things, like you look at, I mean, you want something with like built, you want a brand or like, you know, you want yourself to like have like an amount of like built-in integrity where you start it and like, yeah, you'll make a mistake or like you'll put out a shitty album or something, but just having like lasting power and like not just focusing on this like shit that doesn't even make sense, like whatever, Twitter or like.
Well, the other thing about it is, I mean, occasionally you can do it, but why do you want to? What do you get? Okay, let's say, you know, factory of people pushing like buttons in Malaysia. Even if you get that, it's irrelevant to your business. It's irrelevant to whatever it is you're doing, right? So if you have if you're a DJ with a SoundCloud and you'll get like everybody in the city to listen to you.
Yeah, you want
Who
a
cares?
firm foundation.
You want the one person that fucking matters to listen to it, man. You want the one person that's going to put you on as a promoter and give you a show at a venue to hear your mixtape, not
right.
Or the general
I guess,
public.
Like, that's just what people like. If people's point of reference is like whatever the suburbs or like Milwaukee and an internet connection, then it's pretty hard to understand that, you know. Like I probably wouldn't have gotten that like growing up in the suburbs, and like I wouldn't have understood that, you know.
Well, it's like it's the all elusive internet points. It's like, that's great, you got internet points, but like I've been on the internet since before there was points, and before there was points, there was just dollars. Like, and there's dollars on the internet, but it's like the only people making dollars and making points into dollars are people like YouTube and Facebook and Google AdWords, you know, like they are doing the thing that you can't do really, like unless you're doing it on, you know, they're capitalizing off of those numbers, which is like I said, who cares if I get 40,000 likes on some random picture that has nothing to do with my account if it's not what I'm like doing? And that's fine, but like, what are you doing with that traffic other than making Instagram more money?
Yeah.
You've succeeded in making Instagram a shit ton of money and Facebook therefore, which is like the same people who are complaining about how Facebook's ruining the city right now are like, oh, fuck, you know, fuck the Google bus. And they're posting it on Instagram, you know?
Yeah.
And like, like what, and they got 40 likes. Did that 40 likes, did that get turned into like $40 of like activist money that you put against Google buses? No, it turned into $40 that like Facebook took to make the bus bigger, you know, like and make the city shittier.
Yeah.
And then you're going to complain about it on the network that they paid for. Like, you're a genius. Great.
Do you ever look at like last summer I read most of it, but Jaron Lanier's book, Who Owns the Future? And it's all about like, I mean, most of it's kind of out there, like academic shit, but it's all about like, just all that shit that's going on right now.
I haven't
like,
read it, but I heard about
net neutrality and like the decimation of the creative class and all this shit that just makes total sense to me in a way, but then I don't know how to like process it really. It's like my relationship with it, but
yeah, I'm a big kind of futurist nerd too. I'm like all about like singularity theories and stuff like that too. So
the Kurzweil thing.
Oh yeah, I love Kurzweil, man. I'm very excited too that he went to work for this company called Magic Leap, who's doing like VR projection goggles. It's
like Oculus Rift.
Yeah, but it's a totally new. It's like a very, very, you should go look it up, Magic Leap, but it's a very like secretive project that like all these crazy people keep getting hired to like go. I think Kurzweil and I think Neil Stephenson also got hired there.
I don't know who that is.
He wrote like Snow Crash and like Cryptonomicon and like all these like hacker sci-fi cyberpunk books.
Right.
I might be fucking that up, but I'm pretty sure I got that right.
I think
you know about Moore's Law?
Right, yeah.
So Moore's Law has been holding true for like all of history, and it's mostly to deal with computer processing power.
Yeah.
And it's basically that every 2 years, the processing power of computers doubles.
It's exponential.
Exponential, right. So on like slowly to like a very vertical increase, right?
See, I kind of like have this like, I don't know, but like I always take like more of a cynical, like I like identify more with like this more cynical stuff. Like I kind of feel like that's why I like the Jaron Lanier stuff, because because he's kind of saying, like you said, oh yeah, these people like this thing, but it's a catch-22, because the more you like it, the more you're destroying the people's jobs and things like that. So it's like I kind of have this, like people like totally like fetishize technology and stuff like that, but I kind of have this like idea that like,
you mean that like somebody's using an iPhone that's way too powerful for them playing Angry Birds on or some menial bullshit on?
No, I mean like maybe like cigarettes, we'll find out in 50 years that the internet was actually giving us all cancer, and we're like something we do, like it was just all a big, because like people I just saw whatever Ex Machina like the other night, and it was like, I don't know, people are just always like just like kind of fetishize technology, and I think like maybe just
well, it doesn't mean technology doesn't work. Like just because 99% of people have no idea what an internal combustion engine's doing when your car is running doesn't mean that they can't drive through a green light.
Right.
So I mean, I think in that sense, like the wider like the technology is adapted and used, like you're gonna have like morons using incredibly complex systems, which we already have. I mean, my phone is stronger than like what universities used to break encryption with just like 10 years ago. It's used to just like look at cat pictures on the internet. So
right.
We already have that layer of obfuscation that's removed from the technical side of things, but technology isn't about that. Technology is you have like a hardware layer that's basically just computing, right? It's like how fast can a computer manipulate data, right? And then software is like all the arbitrary stuff on top of that you want to say like, okay, well, with this technology, which is like a small touch screen computer, I want to make a game where you can paint with your finger. Uh-huh. That's like a really primitive cave wall painting with your finger, right?
Yeah.
Yet it's using a supercomputer that's scaled down to the size it can fit in my pocket, doing all these incredibly complex calculations to do what? To paint a fucking dick on like a paint program. And that's already existing, right? So that's a big deal. But what you do with that, I mean, it's the same thing like, But
like Kurzweil and stuff, they think that like, I don't know. All right.
What people are...
Is it a concept and like a philosophy, or is it like, what does it look like? Is it like a predicted point in the future?
The actual singularity itself, and I'm not the best like to break this down. Kurzweil probably is.
I kind of want
to, but the idea is basically this, right? Okay, so you have like AI getting smarter and smarter and smarter now. Computer can do tons of shit better than humans can already, right? There's a thing called the Turing test that's like an AI test that's decided when, like, the Turing test has already been like beat and stuff, right?
Right. That's what
that isn't actual artificial intelligence. That's a test of tricking other humans to not be able to guess if it's a human, right?
Yeah.
It works like this. Like once we have like the ability to interface like a brain and like recreate, sooner or later we'll be able to recreate the circuitry of a human brain 100% in a simulation. That's true. We'll be able. You can take. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Well, it's
because there's always a gap between the 0 and the 1, you know? It's like if you recorded on tape or if you shot on film, there's like no gap. But if it's just 1s and 0s, you could never reach like infinity through a 1 and a 0. You know what I mean? So it would always be a closed system.
Well, that's like pi or something. That's just, it's a non-truncating number. It depends on how you want to look at it. You can look at something like that, like a fractional number. You can look at it as a transcendental number, like that has qualities that never end. Or, I mean, data is not what we're talking about here. Computing power is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something way, like people's arguments over whether or not a computer will think and stuff like that don't have a whole lot. They have a place in this, but not till you get towards the scary end of things, which is the singularity. Hold on one second. I have a thing right here. This is the only thing I want to show you, though, on that fucking thing right here. This is just like, I take this to my whiteboard.
Okay, I'm looking at...
Give that a minute to sink in and then ask me.
Oh, my God. I don't know if I can even wrap my head around this right now. What's the MIPS?
Millions of instructions per second. That's how a computer chip is actually rated. So when you're talking about a computer, all computers, including humans, including like animals, including anything that computes anything, can be rated in MIPS. And those are the ratings on that scale of per year, the cost per millions of instructions per second by... So all those little dots, what they're converging on is not forced into a line. The line is Moore's law. Look at a few years ago, like what were we working with?
Yeah. So the singularity is just like it's like you know Zenos paradox, where it's the paradox that you can infinitely divide something in half.
I do.
And you'll never reach an answer, you know what I mean? So it's like, even if the graph, like it just, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
And he's
I'm going to check it out. I always wrote him off as like a kook, as like, you know, he's the only one laughing now, dude. Because Scientology guy.
Yeah, well, he updated his thing too, like recently, and people were like, "Oh, you're worried that it's not going to match up," and it matched up perfectly. But like,
I want to know. Is there anything you want to say? Like,
I got to eat sooner or later. That's what I guess.
Like, don't follow me.
I'm hoping you're gonna cut this down to like 4 sentences, but I dread like seeing like a fucking 13-hour. I haven't used this yet, but I saw this shit and I don't know how well it works. And it was in Adobe Premiere, but I'm certain it must exist for audio recordings like this, which is an automatic transcript feature.
I haven't seen that. I know there's that thing Dragon that types out audio.
Yeah. I wonder if Dragon has it, because Dragon probably can do an auto transcript feature where it just runs the audio file through itself and it spits out a text file. And then you can search it. I actually developed some software way back in the day. And this is one of my earliest little weird claims to fame for like computer shit. But I made this program in the 90s that was called Shit Talker. And it was a prank calling program, and it used... text-to-speech libraries so that anything you typed into it, it would say. So it basically had this little interface with all the common things that you use during like a phone call, like, hello, this is so-and-so. And it had all these text fields that you could fill in your own arbitrary stuff, right?
Okay.
And you've heard the computer like talk in the robot voice before. It was basically that, but like in like a very early version of it. And so like people hadn't really heard that before much, but you would place a call with it, and then you would hear the person talking, and you would like use the keyboard and mouse to fucking talk to them with this thing. So it was actually like you were prank calling somebody, but the robot was talking for you.
Right.
And it had all these I had all these features in it, like
I think I used to have like some 3.5 floppy disks that just had like sound bites of like whatever it was, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Or
Soundboard.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, you know nothing. Like, yeah. So somebody made a soundboard of my thing too. Yeah, it was the same. Those soundboards came off of my program, dude. I'm pretty sure that might have been invented because of my program. But it was the first. It was like, because that was.
What did you write it in?
Visual Basic 3.
Holy shit!
It was for Windows. It might have been. It was Windows 95.
Wow.
And it got pretty... It was used in like an episode of Crank Anchors.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Can you still get a copy of it somewhere?
Yeah, it's on my website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just Google
I
shit talker.
Yeah,
anyways, you can if you go on YouTube and you type in shit talker prank calls, you can find other people making calls with it. Like there's a whole cult community too, because it's actually so old that it doesn't run on any modern computers. It's so fucking old. Like Windows won't even run it.
You'd have to get like a emulator or something.
Yeah, it's really legitimately that old. And so for a while there was like a ways of running it, and now there's just like not even any way to run it outside of like having an old computer set up for it. But like all these people a guy recreated it for OS X too, like a Mac version of it. Tons of people would email me and they'd be like, do you have any, are you going to update this? Because it like didn't run forever. So for years I'd get like people like, yo, we love this program.
As like a novelty.
Yeah, like please update it so it runs on like a newer system. And I'm not a software developer. I'm not like making any money. I gave it away for free too.
I just wrote this program in Visual Basic, but I'm not a software developer.
It was like the analogy of like this thing for like, this was like one of my first programming things, and I'm still not, I don't really call myself a programmer necessarily. I like hacked this thing together with like duct tape and fucking bubble gum, dude. It was,
yeah.
So, but it's like I never updated it, so it kind of had like a window, and it's like now it won't even run, so there's no new fans. But like people, I still get emails. I got an email like this month.
That's funny.
Of just somebody just asking me. A lot of them are just stoked that like I hit them back.
Yeah.
Because they're like, dude, I used this program like every day in high school. I just wanted to say what's up, and I wanted to know if you ever updated it and stuff like that, and like, why did you put this in there or something like that? Because it said this thing once, and I was just like, I was fucking tripping. Like, why did that? Because I also like I used to get a kick out of like anytime I started making programs, I would just like put random fucked up shit in there that like was like
an Easter egg.
Yeah, Easter eggs. Yeah. So I had all my software had like tons of Easter, but obnoxious ones, dude. Like some of them would just like do totally undesirable stuff, and they do it not in any predictable way. So it'd be like you wouldn't know how to recreate it, or it would just randomly happen. They're like, oh my God, I fucking created a monster, and it's you get that feeling because it's like you put your input into this thing long enough and you don't really know what it's going to do with it, but then it spits something out and you're like, oh shit, like, that was like my first taste of AI. It's kind of when I started getting into that stuff. But,
yeah. That's pretty tight. Yeah, I got to check that out.
It's
That's
fun.
crazy.
Yeah,
I would have never thought of Soundboard had you not brought that up. All right.
Need to get some food. Got this Wise Sons. Do you ever go there?
Yeah.
They had this breakfast sandwich there like 2 days ago, and it was the best sandwich I ever had in my life, right? It was like fucking so delicious. And
What's on it?
It was scrambled eggs, cheese on a bialy. I think that's how you say it. It's like a bagel.
I don't know. I'm not Jewish.
But more Jewish.
Hebrew.
It's like a bagel with a hole only in the top. I don't know how they do it, but it's a baked good. And crispy pastrami with avocado. I think some kind of sauce or something in it. Anyway, I had it like 2 days ago. It was fucking bomb. It was like so good. Went back today, got it. It was fucking gross today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. They're always like usually really consistent with food there. It's also not cheap either, but like, yeah.
Right, it's not cheap.
I got it to go, and it was just like such a disappointment. I didn't even eat it. It's like sitting on my desk still, half of it.
Where else do you like to eat around here?
Oh man, I've eaten everywhere here. Like I've been living in this house for like 15 years now. So like anytime anything new opens up, I'm so excited because it's just like, I get Grubhub a lot. I get to order food a lot.
Yeah.
But I can't deal with like,
when Hagen Rocks opened, that was my spot for a while.
I actually never eaten there.
But I just recently went to, because my girlfriend's we're kind of like foodies. But we went to Francis, which is like kind of by Church and Market, and another place called State Bird on Lower Fillmore, which is really good.
I've been hearing about that for a while. They just opened another restaurant somewhere down here, like a sushi restaurant or something weird. How was it? State Bird.
It was good. I mean, it's expensive, but it was tight. I'm trying to go to Chez Panisse in Berkeley because I've never been there either. But yeah, I'm all about food. Wise Sons, I'm down with that.
Have you been to like the Palace Steakhouse or any of that stuff? These
No.
little pop-ups around here.
No.
My boy Manny runs this place. It started out as Mr. Pollo, which you probably heard about, and that was like all in that foodie scene. It's like a family-owned steakhouse, closed after like 40 years. Then this dude opened it up, and it's like really intimate. There's like none of the overhead, none of the bullshit. You can go there looking however you want. The place itself is just like outside of like operationally working as a kitchen. They don't really fuck with anything there. It's just like a space.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like Mission Chinese. It's just like...
Yeah, that place that's pretty well known. That dude was on like Letterman and stuff. Cooking.
Was he?
Yeah.
That's an old ass friend of mine, dude.
Oh, yeah?
He used to live in this neighborhood. I mean, I don't know where he lives now. I saw him in the neighborhood not that long ago. Actually, if you go way back on my Instagram, like a year or two back on my Instagram, like my personal one, he's like out in the street right here in front of a phone booth. He opened a place in the Lower East Side in Manhattan now, Mission Chinese. It's good too. But yeah, that's the homie dude, Danny.
Right, yeah, I forgot what his name was.
Yeah, it's weird to see people blow up like that for some kind of like random like I mean,
It's the same.
it's like, you know, I mean, I could hear like interviews with him and stuff all the time, and I seen him like on like talk shows and shit like that, where he'll just be like, okay, we're gonna cook like ma pa tofu today, and it'll be like, oh, like I did a bump off of that dude's key in the pop's bathroom like 10 years ago. That was his first culinary venture. Was me and him were selling hot dogs in Dolores Park called the Wiener.
Oh, yeah, for real? Nice.
Somewhere there's a good picture of like us with this sign like that says Wiener Boys, and it was because he brought down like a pack of hot dogs and buns, and we cooked hot dogs for like a single day and tried to sell them at the park.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I miss like living on the, like, you know, going to Sunfat on Mission and getting just like a big ass bag of oysters, all kinds of fresh food. That's what's good about the Mission. That like people don't even know. If you lived anywhere else, you wouldn't fucking know the difference between what good food or what bad food is, unless you've lived here. All right. We gotta wrap it up, man.
Speaking of which, let's go get some.
You've been listening to the Cameron Adair podcast, made by me, Cameron Adair. Thanks to Chris and Mishka. You can find Chris online at unesthetic.net. For Mishka, go to mishkasf.com. The show's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and at CameronAdair.com. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. And join me next time.